Now, a little bit about us. AI in Education is a student-run initiative dedicated to bringing together students, educators, researchers, and founders to collectively explore the future of AI in education. We host events like this webinar, conferences, and publish a biweekly newsletter to share the latest discussions and research in this exciting field. In today's webinar, we'll walk you through a clear five-step approach to integrating AI in ways that enhance your course goals. We'll explore how academic integrity, ethical use, and AI-informed assessment practices can be integrated into a flexible framework that supports both instructional values and student learning. I'm excited to introduce today's speaker, Marissa. Marissa is an AI and education consultant and also a former high school teacher with 13 years of experience. She's the founder of Teaching with Machines and is also a two-time recipient of the ASU GSB's Leading Woman in AI Award. Without further ado, let's welcome Marissa.
Hey, hi everyone. I hope you're well. Okay, so first things first, I received like a quick little email from Imogen yesterday, and it kind of ran down about all these amazing people from these different universities, kind of letting me know who's going to be in the audience. And to be honest with you, I get a little nervous just because I'm speaking to college professors. I think that will never go away. I, but at the same time, I, you know, I think for me, it was this moment where I realized that what I'm talking about is universal and to leave the expertise in your hands on applying that to your field. And so hopefully my goal today is just to plant the seed into you being able to apply your expertise. And I did see there was some people from Fresno. Shout out to the amazing educators there. I went to school there for my university degree, and quick shout out to you. A lot of amazing educators there. So let's move on. Let's get started. And like I said, I'm nervous, and I always am nervous when I'm speaking to other educators because I really do feel like I care so much about your time and making sure what you get from it relevant. So my name is Marissa Sadler Holder. I founded Teaching with Machines for this very reason, to help educators know that there's somebody who understands, who gets it on the other side, that will provide and help them through this process, these changes, another thing added to our plates. With AI coming into this area. So yeah, I like to call myself your bestie, your teacher bestie, because we always have one who will give you the real deal and be unfiltered sometimes. And speaking of unfiltered, because I only work for myself, I'm going to say something that maybe is a little spicy, a little hot take. And that is kind of what we're seeing in education right now, and what is happening with now the rise of AI. And I think it's becoming slightly more complicated. For me, what I saw in my own experience is, as a high school teacher, that kids came to my class not because they actually wanted to learn, but they wanted to check a box to go on to the next level. And learning kind of turned into checking a box for the next level. And then they move on to, you know, college or university, and they check that box, and then it's all to kind of be successful eventually with having the right job. You know, you had to do all these things to get there. And I felt like it was moving away more and more from the whole purpose of education, which is to learn and to grow and to be prepared for this new world. So that's my hot take on this. I don't know if any of you are also experiencing that, or at least feeling that a little bit. But I think with AI, it's all about optimization. So really, how do we integrate it rather than fight it? Okay. Thank you, Juliet. Thank you. Okay, I feel validated in my little hot take here. And by the way, you guys, feel free to make comments. Whatever it is, I'm here for you. I'm your bestie. Give me what you think. So I'm going to tell you, I had to fight this relevancy piece a lot in high school French class, right? Because again, they were checking a box to go on and graduate and then go on to the college and whatever it is. So there was a handful of students who actually took my class because they liked the language. there was definitely a group of people who thought my class was easier than maybe other classes. Or maybe, the ratio to boys and girls in my class, the odds are pretty good for the random dude. So I had a lot of boys take the class because they thought a lot of girls were taking the class. But it was never really truly to be like, okay, I want to sit down and I want to learn the language, be a part of this culture, world citizen, all of these things. And for the most part, it's like, oh, you're taking French classes in high school. Oh, that's really going to help you in your future, right? And so I had to combat that. And I'm going to tell you a quick little story about how I kind of started addressing the relevancy of learning a language in my class, which was a long time coming. So I had this eighth grade kid in my class, and he was not interested. He was checking a box. He was not interested in French. He struggled with it. It wasn't for him. And then probably around April, he sends me an email and says, Madam Holder, I'm not going to be able to do your French homework tonight because I was busy with my mountain biking club. Okay, first of all, let that sink in. And I mean, my initial reaction was, oh my God, the audacity of this kid to write me this email. How dare you undermine the importance of my homework while you go mountain biking to where Mount Audace? I mean, like, give me a break, kid, right? And then I calmed down. I walked away. I didn't respond to the kid. I just was okay. And I started thinking, this kid probably got far more out of going mountain biking that evening than he would have as far as doing verb charts for his homework. But here's the deal. How can I make this language relevant to this child? And no, he didn't write it in French. It was in English. I mean, it was all, anyways. Okay. So then what I ended up doing was providing a learning opportunity that kind of melded everything. So what I ended up doing was, for a final, I had them choose a passion of theirs and do a lot of research on it and then create a website. So tapping into those 21st century skills things, right? And he created this amazing website. But the moment I realized that I finally got through to him was when he came up to me later and said, I joined a Facebook like club, not Facebook, Instagram club for international youth mountain bike groups. I don't know, whatever it was. And guess what? I was speaking French with these kids who live in France, and we were talking about XYZ. And he says it was so exciting. And I'm thinking, I'm like, so there's relevancy in learning this language. Isn't it really cool that you were able to connect with these people that normally you wouldn't have been able to connect with, blah, blah, blah. And he said, and I'm sure that went over his head, but suddenly that light bulb went off to him that having this ability to connect over a passion that he finds relevant, suddenly learning language and learning French is not so irrelevant, right? So it's about kind of providing those opportunities for them, the student agency, a real world application of the curriculum that we provide, demonstrating curriculum mastery and support 21st century skills. Now, here's where it gets kind of wonky for us, right? Because really, I was hired to teach French, but really, we are not just teaching whatever area of expertise that we're in. We also have to make sure that they're ready for, their future. And that includes digital literacy. And this is where that umbrella comes in. And as you can see, it has all the things that we've been doing and required to do. But at the very bottom, there's that AI literacy piece. So now we have to make sure that whatever we're supporting in our classes also supports that AI literacy piece. And if you're feeling alone on this, there is a wonderful website, teachai.org, that provides you a little bit more of that foundation. But I want to separate two different things here. AI literacy is like this foundational thing, right? You have an understanding of how it works, where it gets its answers from, how to, work with it a little bit. But then there's the other thing that we don't really talk a lot about that is almost far more important is the fluency piece. How do you use that foundation? What tools would you go to? How would you manipulate the tools to be able to get an answer that is correct? And most importantly, does it reflect your own expertise? And deciding whatever it produces truly does if we're going to be using it. So, because right now, the way students are typically using it, and now there's always outliers, that's just a super general statement. But what I've been hearing, right, is that the students are using it just liberally and just kind of taking answers and copy and pasting whatever they found and putting it in. And I'll give you an example here, right? So, when I ended up leaving the classroom to build teaching with machines, I still felt like I needed to be somehow in the classroom to make sure that whatever I'm offering is somehow relevant. And so I started subbing, but I also saw it as an opportunity. Hey, I get a chance to talk to these kids. Let me just ask them. And what I found them to be is super, super candid with me because they could be. Like they didn't have to hide that they were using it. In fact, they were showing me, this is my favorite app. This is what I use. This is how I use it. And so I asked a student, I said, have you ever used it to learn? The look on this kid's face. No. Okay, let's back up, right? So I said, well, let's try. Do you know what aerodynamics is? And he says, no. And I said, okay, well, why don't we ask it? And maybe we'll have it break it down. So I ask it to explain like your five, right? And so he types it in, but he writes aerodynamics, as you can see on the chat. And it came up with it's a company made from super awesome roller coasters. They build these big, exciting rides that go up and down. I'm like, oh, dude, no. You misspelled aerodynamics. And then he goes, well, here's the answer. And I said, yeah, but did you know that aerodynamics is not the correct answer? Did you trust whatever it gave you? He says, yeah. I said, what if you had turned this in to your teacher? And he says, well, I would have probably been caught. And I said, yeah, but the thing is you're trying to learn. So we need to be critical about what it's coming out with. And sometimes AI hallucinates. And then I went on to this whole hallucination thing, right? Well, truth be told, I was getting ready for this like really big keynote and I had this in my slide deck and I was practicing and my husband's looking at me and he goes, you know what, Marissa, I don't think that's an example of hallucination. And I'm like, yes, it is, because that's what I'm saying it is. And he says, no, I don't really think it is. I think that actually might have been a company. And he Googled it and he, looked it up and he was correct. It was an example of hallucination, but it certainly was an example of my own biases, limitations, and not checking to make sure that it was actually correct or not. So we have to teach this, but it's also an example of that we are learning right alongside students. So we have to be kind to ourselves, but we also have to realize that is what's happening. So how do we go from cheating to learning? And how do we change that mindset that this is a tool to cheat or cut corners or to optimize their education, right? Because the optimization of education goes exactly against what education, the learning process, right? It's a messy process. It's all over the place and it's a beautiful thing, but it certainly isn't kind of that optimization. So how do we go from cheating to learning and seeing the tool as a learning tool? Because the fact is that cheating evolves. We've seen it. I have problems with kids with smartphones, and then I had problems, with kids with smartwatches, and then all of a sudden there's, smart glasses now, right? So all of these different things. So what can we do? What in our own power can we do? And so I'm going to give you a quick example from my own experience of how I was able to take a tool from that cheating to learning. And it didn't take a lot of changes. It didn't make me overhaul my curriculum. It just made me realize what I needed to do. And so the story is I was fresh out of my educational program, right, for credentialing. And I was told you need to create relevant and fun and digital projects and build 21st century skills, but also support the curriculum. And it took hours to build these projects for these kids. And then all of a sudden, Google Translate gets released. And suddenly I had French 1 students turning in the likes of Moliere. And I'm like, what? You can't even say I have a cat, right? How are you turning in prose, right? And so I had to start thinking, how am I going to change this? Because right now the kids are using it to cheat. So, oh, there she goes again. Okay. So I created a simplistic form. Now, this is super simplistic, but you can take this idea and you can create it with your own AI if you want, but just a way that is, look, if you're going to use the tool, I'm going to teach you how to use it properly. And I'm going to give you boundaries to use it. So if you're going to use the tool, you're going to cite it as not as your work, and you're going to show me that you are learning from it. So I had them cite the work. They were able to use Google Translate. And then they had to identify why they were turning to it. So they had to find the challenge word for them. What part of that was difficult for them? And that was an indication to me why my students were turning to the tool instead of being able to accomplish it on their own. And then they had to, show me what they learned from it and how to maybe conjugate verbs and all this stuff. But what happened in the classroom was that fear and sneakiness of using this tool turned into, hey, I can use this tool within these boundaries and I can still feel like I can move ahead and I'm not going to get in trouble. And we can, and for me, it was like I can see exactly the areas that they were struggling in. And so it was a win-win for us. And I think we're going to have to do the same thing with AI. So, um, this is a super simplistic. You're gonna be like, okay, Marissa, this is way too easy. But honestly, we have to start small and not be so hard on ourselves because it is such a drastic change that we're seeing right now. So, first things first, this is just an example, right? You pick a project that you love. And the reason why I want you to pick a tried and true project that you love, that your students love, an assignment, whatever it is, but you know that the learning happens whenever they do this assignment. So, something that can only be improved upon, but it is amazing as it is. You're going to choose that kind of assignment to test this out. And then you're going to take that assignment, run it through AI, and have AI provide inspirations for some kind of AI to be a part of that assignment. So I just took I gave a simple prompt here that I said, I'm going to give you a project prompt that I give my students. Can you please give me some ideas? That kind of thing to complement what it is that I'm doing. And of course, because I was in K-12, I wanted to make sure that it was appropriate for their use. And then it will list up a bunch of different activities. Now, this is where you would apply your expertise in seeing it. Yes, that's something that will resonate with my students. No, I don't really think that will. And then you can kind of work with it to kind of select a tool and an activity that complements the learning that you are doing. And then this is really, really important because we know the project that you've already picked or the assignment that you already picked is really, really valuable and you know that the kids are going to learn with it. I think what is really important is to recognize that we're all learning. So this really should be a play thing. So they get to experiment with low risk. It's not going to directly affect their grade. Maybe maybe it's a completion grade. Whether or not it was done correctly is totally different. You have to allow them to learn in a safe environment. And I think because there are so many different things going on with AI, that maybe just allowing the risk-free part to be a complementary part of your amazing assignment is a great way to do this. Oops, sorry. And then we need to always have like some kind of reflection piece. And I think what's important about this is there's two different things when you are having the students reflect. And it's how did the AI tools enhance your learning or did it, right? So they're thinking about learning, they are associating the tool with the learning. And then the second piece is that building AI literacy. What challenge did you encounter? And if you did, and then what did you overcome? What kind of things did you do to overcome it? Now, that's really, really important because we do want them to start thinking about the learning and how to use this tool to support their learning rather than replace their learning. Because I keep on saying AI should not replace what we know. It should be an extension of your expertise. It should be a reflection of your expertise. So whether we're using it or whether students are using it, it's the same thing. So I'm going to give you an example. I'm not actually, I don't know if the sound image, and we didn't test the sound here. But if the video doesn't entirely work properly, that's okay. It was really horrible accents anyway. Sorry to my amazing students, but we were working on accents. What I had them do was basically they always had to do this, assignment where they had to demonstrate their understanding of a fable. And usually I have them create a video or something where they demonstrated this understanding. And this time I asked the students to actually generate AI images for to demonstrate their understanding while they are reading and practicing their pronunciation. And what I found was I didn't have to be perfect at using Canva's AI imagery thing. I just simply said to my students, go to Canva, find the generative AI section, and create a video voiceover using AI generated images. And they were able to do it. And this was something that took, 20 minutes of class and they had fun and they were learning. We discussed kind of the different things that they ran into, that kind of thing. So let me see if I can try playing it. And Imogen, if you want to tell me if you can hear it or not. Sorry, we didn't test that earlier.
I cannot hear it.
You can't hear it. That would require me to stop sharing. Do you want me to do it?
It's up to
And then
you.
okay. Let me just go ahead and stop sharing and then I'll restart. Hold on one sec. Here we go. Nope. Nope. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Okay. Let me make sure I have sound on. Oh, okay. Let's try this again.
Le Corbeau et le Renard par Ella Gian Kaylee et Serena. Maître Corbeau sur un arbre perché tenait son bec en fromage. Maître Renard par l'odeur alléchée. Lui tend à peu près ses languages.
Okay, so definitely working on our accents there. But the idea is that you take something that you already do in your class and you find in where AI complements it. And I think that's really, really important. And it didn't take a whole lot. It didn't take me being an expert with AI imagery and Canva. So it's just these little things where we're providing opportunity and that relevancy piece for these 21st century skills embedded into the curriculum.
Le
So,
Corbeau.
oh, we don't need to listen to that again. Okay, so I work oftentimes. So first of all, I do work with Orange County Department of Education as a consultant for AI integration. But at one of my private consulting coaching, I worked with a group of English teachers who wanted to somehow integrate AI into the writing assignments because they were tired of seeing their students just copy and paste. And I asked them, what is the most important thing in the writing process for you? And they said the process was, and the process of the writing versus their final output. And I said, well, why don't we focus on the process and maybe shift the weight to the grading of the process and not so much on the final output? and let's just test it. This doesn't have to be an overhaul. This could just be a one-off assignment. Let's just see how we do. And so I created this. Now, you guys, I do have this is a downloadable. This section right here is a downloadable thing that you can take and you can have. It's on my website. And there's also an example of an actual writing assignment inside of there for you guys. So you can see the breakdown, the rubric, and everything that we created. So there's something like people call these different things all the time. There's like an Oreo sandwich or whatever. And I just call it 20, 20, 40, 20. And what that means is where you start off is that the students use AI to brainstorm some initial ideas. Now, again, all of this is within boundaries that you have clearly made to your students, right? So here's one idea to get you generating, get you going, thinking of different ideas and brainstorming. You can use AI for that part. But the 40%, the load on the shoulder of the student is to get that first draft done. Based off of that inspiration, let's start using that to write. Then we go back to AI and we ask for feedback. Now, I know this is all very like kind of what's my word that I'm looking for? It all just seems kind of like very easy to do. It's not hard, but I will say we gave the students the prompts that they can use. We tested those prompts because we wanted to ensure that they really are only getting feedback and not having AI write the answer for them. So we had AI feedback, and then they took that feedback and then they revised on their own. So again, it goes simplistic. You just select the assignment that you want to test out, and you're going to focus on integrating that AI piece. And then this next part is the brainstorming. Now, this is important. It's generating ideas, and you can document the interactions that they have with AI. If you're using ChatGPT, there is a way where you can share your conversation with somebody. So this group of teachers decided that they wanted to see the conversations that the students were having with AI, and that was a part of the assignment. That's what they were getting points on. And so they said, okay, here's my interaction with AI. And then this is really important. They had to evaluate the usefulness of it. Were the suggestions helpful? And start getting that, bringing in their own voice, their own opinion, reflecting of their own expertise in that area, what they're learning, right? So they have to be really, really critically thinking about whether or not whatever the AI is producing is useful. And then they go back in and they take maybe some of those ideas and those suggestions and they get to writing. They really start developing their own personal voice. They're showcasing their original thinking, and they are creating that first draft alone, no AI. Now, this group of teachers decided to say, okay, at homework, you do your AI piece, inspiration piece. In the classroom, I want to see you writing this draft in the classroom with your notes or whatever it is that you have decided to inspire you. And then they went back to the AI feedback phase. So again, we provided those structured prompts for the students. We said, copy and paste this prompt into ChatGPT and then upload your work if you to get that feedback. And again, that was something that conversation they had to share for the process, the points for the process part. And they really honed in on the areas that they were trying to assign here or to teach, excuse me. So they targeted in that prompt, focus on clarity, argument strength, counter arguments, and structure. They kind of targeted the prompt to make sure that the feedback reflects what they're really trying to teach those kids. And then once again, the kids documented their interaction and submitted that to their teachers. And then the last piece, of course, is the revision process, the review of feedback. They analyze what the suggestions were. They make a choice on which feedback to implement, They maintain control over those changes, and students explain their revision choices in their own words. It's just a way, again, it's a way to say, this is probably going to be more reflective of the world that you will be living in. Right. And I'm going to just pause here for 2 seconds because I want to say that education has always been difficult in that, aside from whatever subject we teach, we are also tasked with preparing students for their future. And we never really ever know what that's going to look like. And we always kind of prepare from the perspective that we are currently living in, right? Right now, this is what you'll need to have for the future. And with AI coming in, I would say that we don't know what that future potentially looks like in 5 years from now. We don't know what our future maybe look like within 5 years. It might look different. And yet we're still tasked to make sure that these kids will have to be ready for that kind of future. And that's not saying that there won't be enduring things. I 100% believe that critical thinking, collaboration, all of those things. But truly, it is a huge task that we are taking on. And it even is more complicated with now involving AI into that piece. But the good thing is that we are learning right alongside them, and we can model what it looks like to use this tool ethically. And I think also it's important to keep in mind that when we allow AI tools like this to be somewhat appropriate part of a process, then we are no longer punishing them for being almost better and more well equipped with the AI piece, right? So like, um, I had like, it's like, I don't remember what I put some quote on LinkedIn, somewhere like, we're essentially punishing them for being more future ready than ourselves, So, that was much better than what I had said, but anyways, so again, this comes down to using prompts effectively, brainstorming, feedback, reflection questions. And the reflection is always very important because it really gets them thinking again about how they're using those tools. That two-part piece, right, where it's reflective of their learning and how it's impacting their learning, and then also building that literacy and fluency. Okay, and I'm going to kind of go through this quickly, but it's the reflection questions, decision makings. What feedback did you accept, modify, or reject? How did AI change your writing? Did it change your writing, or I'm sorry, challenge your writing? How did you ensure that AI wasn't doing the work for you? And which ideas that were most helpful and why? So again, it gets them thinking about that process. Start small, gather feedback, and then do it again. I think that we have to be really, really kind to ourselves through this. Okay, so if we start gathering feedback, hear what they have to say, we can adjust and move forward, and we learn, right? Again, this is something that you can take that little section there about writing and including writing. That is a PowerPoint thing that you can download off of my website for free. And then when you open it, you'll have a button right here that you can click, and you can actually see the writing prompt and the process that they did, all the writing, the catered prompts that the students use to copy and paste into that we checked and we identified and that kind of stuff. So by all means, it's free. Everything on my website's free, and it will always be. All those resources, I will never charge you. So please be sure to be able to just know that I'm here for you, and I'll never charge other educators those things. So just to recap, select a project, let AI inspire you, select a tool or an activity, plan for play, because this is a learning environment in which we want kids to feel safe, students to feel safe in exploring their own education, and then reflect and repeat. When we do this, we're not just teaching the curriculum, right? We are providing these learning opportunities that also build their 21st century skills. We're reflecting on their learning. We're building their AI literacy and fluency. We are supporting 21st century skills that we know is going to be a part of their future. We're making sure our curriculum is relevant in the students' eyes. You know, that's hard to do sometimes, at least for French, it was difficult. So, and then modeling appropriate AI use. And the AI ready classroom, I kind of just had this on here, is that it follows boundaries, or I'm sorry, it follows the policies of whatever educational institution you have, right? That they put out their policies there, but it also creates boundaries for the students while providing these opportunities to demonstrate 21st century skills. Whoops. Now, I know this is not necessarily applicable maybe for higher ed, but the idea is there, the seed is there. The idea of classroom norms, what is acceptable within our classroom? What are we okay with? How AI can be used? And these are kind of the key things. Verifying information to make sure that whatever we're getting from AI is correct. And what does that look like? How do we do that? We respect our privacy. We're, making sure that we're not putting things in there that shouldn't be in there. We're avoiding plagiarism. This is a big one. This is the boundaries thing, right? Like they want to know where they can work. And then we're also creating a culture of learning and improvement, right? So we have to be curious but cautious. We need to learn from our tools. And I think it's important that we also share. And sharing could be to other classmates, but it also could be with the teacher or the professor, right? This idea of, hey, I found this tool. I really want to use it on the project. Can I use it? Let me show you how it looks and how it works. I think that open conversation and is it fall within the boundaries is going to be really important. But you have to foster that kind of environment. And because we're all learning, we're just all simply learning. So that, and this is a template. It's on my website. Once again, it's on my website that you can just download. It's in a Google slide and you can change and you can write whatever you want in there. And if I was maybe a higher ed teacher, I would just copy this I'd screenshot this, throw this in and say, make this relevant for a higher education class. You don't have to, that type of thing. Again, this is the same idea is now, so we have the boundaries set, but now we're going to go into those individual projects and assignments where we're saying, okay, AI can play a role in it. And this is a toolbox that you can put on your projects. You can just attach to it. And for this project, you have the ability to see little checks there. You have the ability to go ahead and do this. You have the ability to do this with AI. That kind of thing. You're providing those boundaries of how AI can be used. If it's not checked, it's not used. And if you want to use it, then you have to, get verification from the teacher or professor. So I think that's super important. This is something that just allows them to play within the box, right? And this is again something you can download off of my website. It is just look, guys, I wasn't super fancy. I just created something on a Google slideshow thing, and I just move it every time. It's just my template. Okay, you can use it here. You can use it here, for this project, that type of thing. But I also make sure that students always have questions for reflections. And you don't have to use these questions, but I do think it is important that we make sure we have some kind of reflection piece that taps into that metacognition, the thinking of their own learning, the reflection of that process for them. So, and then also the AI literacy and fluency piece. How did you assess the quality and accuracy of the content? Hello. And then how did AI enhance or support your learning of the topic? And did it? I mean, really, that should be a question did it? Right? Again, we want them starting to think about AI less as a cheating optimization tool and more optimization of learning. Let's get you learning here. Right. So this is up here again. Just to remind, we follow policy, we create boundaries, but we still provide those opportunities and we always make sure that we're supporting these skills. And the last little slide here, I think AI should also be a spot where we can have a moment in our careers where we can look about doing things that it's not about replacing things that we already do. It's about doing things that we couldn't do before without it and changing that mindset. And so, and having fun, right? So here is my AI generated picture of the kid from 8th grade, bike riding to the top of Mount Audace. There he is, because, it really is truly difficult sometimes to make sure learning is at the heart of what we're doing. And this was a great example of if we just change our mindset, change our approach, and be willing to adapt, great things can happen. So this is my website here, teachingwithmachines.com. I do professional development. I create templates. I do one-on-one coaching. I do all of these things, but all of those things that you saw on the website or the different templates, those things are on there, as well as the writing, the AI writing integration piece that's on there. Those are all free that you can download. And so make sure that you capture that if you are interested. I also do a weekly AI newsletter, kind of sharing what I'm seeing, different tools, a whole bunch of different things. A lot of times I'll also put out like free webinars that, is going on with AI in education to kind of make sure our teachers are taken care of as we all kind of adjust and transition to this stuff. So, and then most importantly, you guys, I'm always going to be here for you. And I want you to know that you can get me on LinkedIn. You can
Yeah.
but the whole my thing is if you want to sit down and talk to me for 30 minutes, have a coffee chat, tell me what's on your mind, or like kind of brainstorm ideas together, whatever it is, I am here for you. You are more than welcome to book a free coffee chat with me. I am here for you. If you're interested in professional development for your schools, I am here for you. So let's talk, let's hang out. And again, I could just be your teacher bestie that you want to bounce ideas off of. I'm also here for that. So keep that in mind. And then, of course, connect with me on LinkedIn. I love having friends. The network that we have grown there has been absolutely amazing. So please feel free to reach out. And I finished early. I didn't think I would actually finish.
That was great, Marissa. Yes,
Thank
we'd
you.
love to open the floor to our audience for questions. And it's a great opportunity for you to engage directly with our speaker. We'll do our best to address as many questions as possible. So feel free to either raise your hand or put your question in the chat, and then we'll try to get to you. We did have some questions that were popping up in the chat. One is, I am an online writing instructor and I work for an online writing center. My challenge is providing students with resources for utilizing AI responsibly within the confines of a university's policy on AI. Marissa, do you have anything that you can help with that?
Oof. I would, so I don't know what I don't know what the policy is. And I would say, first and foremost, go through that policy and decide if there's a spot for that, right? If you can actually be doing that. And then what I would probably do is start writing emails about maybe we need to be reconsidering some of our policies because this is where we're heading. Like, for example, the all over the globe, our governments are starting to turn to making sure that AI in education becomes something that is accessible and happening in our universities and in our schools. And I'm hoping that if there is a policy that is kind of roadblocking you, that they too will start kind of opening up and reflecting on different ways it could be used. I think a lot of it is that we just simply don't know. Because what this all means is change how we do things, change how we approach things, change whatever we've done in the past simply needs to be adapted. And one thing that I think is going to be an enduring skill for the future is your ability to adapt. And so we need to make sure that we are also examples of that for our students. So I'm hoping, I don't know if that completely answers your question, but if you, again, if you want to hang out, if you want to talk, you can DM me on LinkedIn and or sign up for a coffee chat and we can think of some ideas. Maybe we can even take it to AI and see if it can think of things that we would have never thought.
Awesome. Thanks for that response. We have another question from Chuck. How can we ensure that AI-supported instruction nurtures critical thinking, deep understanding, and student agency rather than reinforcing passive learning, surveillance, or technocratic efficiency?
Yeah, I'm hoping that that's what I was trying to do in my presentation, is that it really is more of an enhancement of the amazing things that you are doing and providing to your 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 craft, right? So I think first and foremost, we all have to kind of sit down and think, what is it truly that we want our students to learn? And focus on that to ensure that that is what they're practicing. And that's that messy piece, right? That messy learning, art of learning that we need to be focusing on. I think it's, I think if we keep that, what is it that we want them to learn at the heart of what we are doing, then we need to make sure that everything else surrounding it supports those goals, right? So even if it is AI, even if you're going to introduce AI, we need to make sure that it is actually supporting those goals. And I'm hoping that by introducing it into a process rather than replacing, we are going to be seeing that. Again, if we start changing our mindset from a tool that we use to cheat, a tool that replaces our own expertise, and turn it into a learning tool and a reflection of our expertise, is where we're really going to start seeing things take off.
Great. Another question from Leanne. Um, I have some faculty that I work with that are hesitant or resistant to integrating AI into the classroom. What suggestions do you have for motivating?
Um, I think a lot of that, again, it goes back to that idea of we're so nervous and really what it means change, right? But I think even on a deeper level, the fear surrounding AI is the unknown and a search for purpose and identity, our own identity. It's all of these things, what am I to do now that this thing now exists? And I think if we sit there and we say, what is it that we want to do? What is it that we want students to be able to do? And focus on that. And again, support things around it that actually support that. That's where we're going to start seeing it. I think teachers need to know they don't need to overhaul things, but they also want to make sure that they don't want to become police state of making sure kids aren't using these tools. Because I am an educator, I am not a policeman. If I wanted to survey people, I would have gone into that field. I want to see them grow. And what that looks like looks a little bit different now that AI is a part of it. It's still going to be these enduring ideas that we need to teach, but we just have to be willing to know that it's a mindset change and that we're not replacing expertise, we're extending it. I keep on saying this because I think it's really important, and that they don't have to start from scratch. They literally could use the amazing things that they already do and leverage their expertise, because AI is just a tool, but AI with your expertise, that's fire.
I really love that response. On a related note, Anna has a question. Could you recommend sources to put into practice related to problem-solving assignments in STEM fields and disciplines?
Yes, there is, oh my gosh, there is a group, and you can DM me actually. I know I should probably have this memorized off the top of my head, and I don't, and I'm so embarrassed. But there is a group of educators in Southern California that actually just kind of got together and created resources with AI, with STEM related information. and they're really working hard at integrating that. So I'm so sorry I don't have the name right off the bat, but again, if you DM me, I will make sure I will get you that answer. Ah, how embarrassing.
No problem at all. And then Christine asked, could you please share again the wording that you use when you are using AI to help generate a prompt or project? I think it would be helpful if you, would you be able to share this presentation with the group?
Which
Um,
one are you talking about?
so Christine says,
The
could you please share again the wording you use when you are using AI to help generate a prompt or project?
you mean within my presentation?
Yes.
Was it was it from the writing one or was it from the oop, let me go back. Sorry if I hope I'm not making y'all sick. Are you talking about this one?
I think so. I think that is what Christine is referring to. Great. Yes, perfect.
You're welcome.
It doesn't look like we have any more questions unless someone wants to raise their hand or keep them flowing in the chat. But um, we want to thank you again, Marissa, for joining us today and for sharing all of your valuable insights on integrating AI into the learning process. And we also want to thank all of our participants for joining us and for your thoughtful questions and asking Marissa. We are open to any feedback, so if you have any questions, you can DM me or Sophie. If you have any advice or things you want to see in the future, that would be great for us to know. Thanks again for your time today, and we hope to see you at our next event. Have a great day or evening wherever you are.
Thank you. Oh, Chuck, real quick.